I recently did a video on cheap cars with great fuel economy for under £10,000, and I said in that video if you guys gave me 1,000 likes I would do the same video again at under £5,000 instead. Well, you guys very kindly obliged, and here I am doing that video as promised. How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. If you want to see more in this series, I think I might have run out of options at this point, but if you want to see more in this series, then again, 1,000 likes and I'll do maybe sub 3k, sub 2k. Let me know in the comments where you think I should go next. Don't forget I'm in the UK, so prices in other countries may differ, and whenever you buy any second-hand car, maintenance, repairs, insurance, road tax, all that good stuff is important to remember. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already and hit the like button as I said, but without further ado, let's get into the video. Given the topic, this video will be ordered from worst to best fuel economy. So kicking us off, we have the Renault Clio RS 197, which is a 2-litre inline-4 engine that produces 197 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.7 seconds, and will manage 34 miles per gallon. Not bad at all. The 197 is a super nice generation for the Clio RS, let down only by its reliability, specifically around its transmission, which is known to have synchro issues early in life, meaning that many people have had to replace gearboxes on these, sometimes more than once. But if we ignore the reliability issues, these embody what it is to be a hot hatch, just maybe not quite as quick as some of the offerings today. They sound and look good in my opinion, and benefit from having legitimate aero features to increase downforce, like the rear diffuser, which actually helps with handling, and the optional spoiler that came on some examples. Add on the nice Recaro bucket seats and the interior and the cooling ducts as well for the front brakes, and you have the makings of a nice project track car. These start at around £3,000, and £5,000 will get you a 2008 model with around 90,000 miles on the clock. In ninth is probably the car I'd personally go for on this list, though I am of course biased. It's the 3rd generation Mazda MX-5 with a very reliable 2-litre inline-4 engine that makes 157 brake horsepower, which takes from 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds, but of course acceleration isn't really what makes this car so great, it's that world-renowned handling. It'll also manage 36 miles per gallon for your troubles. And it's a reliable car too, check for engine and diff oil and for some superficial rust underneath and you're golden. The Mark III MX-5 is probably the most underrated generation in my opinion. The Mark I is the classic and everyone loves the pop-up headlights. The Mark II is a sensible option as it takes all the positives from the Mark I except for those headlights and enhances them. The Mark IV is the nice aggressive looking modern one, and the Mark III kinda sits in no man's land. It's a hidden gem in the MX-5 lineup though, with Jeremy Clarkson naming it the best value for money car on sale in the UK back in 2009, and he went on to say the only reason he gave it 5 stars was because he couldn't give it 14. Now that is just one man's opinion, but being serious, these are properly handy cars used in many one-make race series around the world, and they've gotten my attention at the moment too. Should I consider getting one to go alongside my Mark I and go full classic race car build on the Mark I while turning the Mark III into a more desirable daily? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You'll find these listed starting at around £2,500, and for double that you'll get a 2009 model with around 50,000 miles on it. Taking 8th is one of my favourite modern looking VWs, the Scirocco TSI, specifically with the 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 that makes 207 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.7 seconds, enabling it to do a combined 38 miles per gallon. That block is shared with the Mark VI Golf GTI for your reference. I'll never understand exactly why VW canned the Scirocco back in 2017, as for those of us who love both coupes and hatchbacks, it's basically the perfect middle ground in my opinion. This is the 3rd generation Scirocco and was designed to hark back to the former generations to some degree. In fact, in 2020 when asked about the future of Scirocco and whether it would return, one of the board members said they have no plans for the immediate future, and Dr. Frank Welsh, VW's Chief Development Officer, said that if there was, it would follow the same formula as previous Sciroccos. There are more performant examples that sit outside our price range, but a nicely spec'd GT will set you back around £3,000 the bare minimum, and 5k will get a 2010 example with around 100k on it. There is a catastrophic failure you need to be aware of with these to do with the chain tensioners, which was sorted in a 2012 update. Next up is the hugely unreliable R56 mini hatch John Cooper works with its 1.6 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine that makes 208 brake horsepower, which will get it from 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds, making it the joint quickest car on this list. At least the MX-5 was reliable, and the Scirocco sort of is, as like the Renault, the R56 JCW is not known for its reliability, and instead for its death rattle, aka chain tensioner failure. failures, which means game over for the car. It's almost definitely worth investing in the slightly less fuel efficient R53 JCW with the supercharged block instead. But this video isn't about reliability, it's about fuel economy, and when it's running, the R56 is quoted at doing 39 miles per gallon, which isn't bad at all. It is a highly capable car too, with an electronic LSD, more power, Brembo 4-pot brakes and dynamic traction control, plus it looks a bit more punchy over the standard car both outside and in. For me though, I would be too scared of the reliability to invest, but each to their own. These are listed for a minimum of around £4,000, with £5 grand getting a 2008 model with 90k on the clock. In 6th we have the first generation Audi A5, a beautiful looking car that won many a design award, but it also has great fuel economy at 42 miles per gallon despite having a petrol 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine that makes 177 brake horsepower and gets to 60 in 7.6 seconds. Like the A7 is a liftback version of the A6, the A5 is that for the A4, and was Audi's first offering in this executive coupe space since the mid 1990s when the Audi A8 ended production. The car was based on the Nuvolari Quattro concept car that was shown at the Geneva Motor Show in 2003, but in my opinion looks a little less TT-like and a lot sleeker, one of those rogue occasions where the concept car isn't better looking than the finished article. It was designed by Walter de Silva, who is one of my personal favourite car designers, being the brains behind the Alfa Spider, the Audi R8, VW Scirocco I just mentioned, and a few other beasts. £3,000 the lowest you'll pay for one of these, and £5 grand to get a 2008 example with high mileage still. The car has been praised for great build quality, but it's a similar story to the Scirocco in terms of the chain tensioner issues. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. As I said, 1,000 likes to do the same video again at a different price range, maybe slightly lower, looking at maybe 2 to 3k is what I'm thinking. And let me know in the comments down below whether you would go for a diesel car with great fuel economy or a petrol car with great fuel economy. What is your preference when it comes to cars? Taking 5th is the Peugeot RCZ, a very strange offering from the French manufacturer, but I think it's pretty cool nonetheless, with its 1.6 litre turbocharged inline-4 that makes 200 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.4 seconds while matching the A5 at 42 miles per gallon. The RCZ was only ever supposed to be a concept car and appeared as the 308 RCZ at the 2007 Frankfurt Auto Show. People reacted so positively to it that Peugeot decided to make the concept a reality, hence the RCZ showed up as the real deal in 2010. The name even harks back to its concept nature, as RCZ actually stands for Racing Concept Zagato, with Zagato referring to the double bubble roof at the top, which is inspired by Zagato's design principles. It's a really cool car, even if it is a bit niche, and for me it does mark a bit of a step change by Peugeot to go back to making nicer cars rather than the pretty rubbish stuff they had been building by the end of the 2000s. These start at around 4 grand, and for 5 grand you'll get a 2011 example with around 80,000 miles on it. Despite being pretty nice, it's still a Peugeot and there's a plethora of potential issues with them that owners have complained of, from chains and temperature sensors to transmission leaks. In 4th we have the Abarth 500, which is the baby of the Abarth set of offerings, with that 1.4 litre turbocharged inline-4 that makes 140 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds while managing 47 miles per gallon, which is pretty sick. The car was built to make the Fiat 500 more appealing to the market that loves masculine cars, and visually it is far more enticing to me at least than the standard car. Both externally and internally it looks sportier, with the more aggressive body kit and bolstered seats. It's not quite on level with the 595 and 695 in either of those departments, but it definitely is a bit nicer than the standard car. It was a major sales success alongside the standard 500, I think because it offers the hot hatch looks with warm hatch performance for a relatively low price, given it was 13k when new, and with cheap insurance quotes for younger drivers, as I've proven in previous videos. These have dropped to around £4,000 the bare minimum, with 5k getting a 2010 model with around 100k on the clock. The engine is a major positive on these and is known to be pretty reliable, and other than a few small issues, owners seem to be very positive on forums. It's a very similar car to the Abarth taking 3rd on the list with the exact same miles per gallon figure, the Alfa MiTo Quadrifoglio Verde, with its 1.4 litre turbocharged inline-4 that produces 167 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.3 seconds. I've spoken about the MiTo QV many times before, and it's a personal favourite of mine as an offering, even if I have seen some owners complain about it not being hugely engaging to drive. You can can get some unreal specs on these, with the Sabelt carbon back bucket seats being desirable, if uncomfortable, as an option, though one thing I'd consider changing pretty sharpish myself would be the standard alloys for some classic Alfa horseshoe ones instead. The engine is basically the same as you'll find in the Abarth, but just with a little bit more power, and visually it's reminiscent of the baby Giulietta, although I think it's actually a bit better looking. These match the Abarth on price, starting at 4k, with 5k getting a 2012 model with around 70k on it. Reliability is also similar to the Abarth 500, but again, some owners have questioned the overall build quality on these in some cases. I love Skoda and I love Fabias, given my first car was indeed a Skoda Fabia, from the generation that gave us the incredible Fabia VRS, which is a 1.9 litre turbocharged inline-4 that makes 130 brake horsepower, with a very sedate quoted 0 to 60 time of 9.2 seconds, not fast at all, but let me explain. Oh, and don't forget it'll manage 53 miles per gallon, which is pretty unreal. The speed is basically a lie. 9.2 seconds to 60 was actually tested at being 7.1 seconds by Autocar, literally over 2 seconds faster. Plus it has exceptional in-gear performance, beating many cars in sprints from 20 to 40 or 50 to 70, including the E92 BMW 330i. Add on the fact that with a simple remap, these will gain almost 50% extra power, and you are laughing. It's not hugely dissimilar looking to the standard Fabia, which may be a negative for some, but personally I think it gives a bit of a sleeper status, particularly if you can find one that hasn't been modified. £2,000 is the lowest that I could find these listed for, and for £5,000 you get a high mileage 2005 example. That PD130 block is known to go for many miles and is relatively cheap to maintain and find parts for, which is a major bonus. I really couldn't make this list without including the BMW 123D, which is a 2 litre turbocharged inline-4 that makes 201 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds, which is pretty nuts when you consider that it's quoted at doing 55 miles per gallon. That makes it both the most economical and quickest car on the list. I feel like I've put a few hidden gems on this list, and the 123D is definitely one of them. Given if I wanted to get a fast 1 series, I'd probably be thinking about the 135i and not the diesel. These come as 3 or 5 door hatches, coupes and convertibles, so plenty of choice however you're inclined, and I personally like the 3-door hatch and coupe the most. They also come in either SE or M Sport spec, so depending on how angular you want your car to be, you can find a spec to your taste. The only sad thing is that it isn't ULEZ compliant. These are available for around £2,500 and £5,000 to get a 2009 model with around 100,000 miles on it. Significant problems are few and far between for the vast majority of owners, but failed injectors have been known on some. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And obviously a massive thanks to the patrons for their support as well. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.